going on, guys? Junior's Fishing Company with another jig video. It's going to be another marabou today. I've got a Sense Swim Jig. I can't remember what pattern this is, but I can put it in the descriptions below. I'm gonna do another marabou today, and it's gonna have kind of like a rooster tail. And what I'm gonna actually do today is a little bit different, and I'm gonna have to fast forward because this is gonna take me a while. But what I'm gonna do, instead of wrapping the marabou, I'm actually gonna strip each little piece and put it on, because I want, when this jig swims like this, I'm gonna have darker olive on top, and I'm gonna peel off white and light olive together, and I'm gonna do it on to what would be the bottom, because if I just wrap it, then it's going to be the same all around, and I want the top to be a little bit darker than the bottom. So I'm going to end up stripping, wrapping, stripping, wrapping, stripping, wrapping like 100 times until I get up to the top. The tail is actually going to be two different feathers. It's going to be kind of this badger green and black, and then I'm going to do, this is just rooster saddle olive. So I'm going to do two different colors in the tail. And what I did with this marabou is I soaked it in warm water. Marabou, a lot of the colors will bleed together, and I kind of want these colors to stay separate. So like this olive, I soaked like 6 feathers overnight in warm water, and it turned this much water, like 6-7 feathers, turned this water this green. So you want to be sure, if you want some of your baits not to bleed together. Obviously, if you do an all black bait, you don't have to worry. White usually doesn't run very much, but I usually soak my marabou feathers. It's easy. You just fill up a jar, put them in, let them sit, take them out. So it's not like it's all this added work, but in my opinion, it just reduces the amount that they'll bleed together. So I've got the green badger and I've got the olive, and they're just a little bit different lengths. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put down some of these longer badgers, and then I'm going to put my olive, and then I've got 2 shorter badger ones that I'm going to put on, and there's like 10 of these feathers, so I'll fast forward through it, but I'm just going to tie them just on the top. Like if the hook is 360 degrees, I'm just going to tie them on maybe like 270. I'm not going to put them on the very bottom. I'm just going to leave them on top. lot of peeling, but I think this last little bit is where it's going to kind of come all together, because I put a bunch of flash down and it's kind of pushing down all this marabou. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of these without fast forwarding, just to kind of show you what I'm thinking in my brain is going to happen. I'm just taking each of these, so maybe I'll start with the bottom. So I've got these white and light olive feathers, and I just line up the fibers, and I'm kind of progressively taking more off as I've worked up. So I'm going to, with these last few, I'm going to really take quite a bit of marabou on each pinch, and I just peel it off, and I can kind of just get it stacked in my hand, and there's those kind of scraggle ends that I'll just trim off, and then I'll make sure if it's super puffy, it's going to be super puffy. If you have like a glass of water or something, you can just wet it down. It just makes it easier to wrap. And I'm going to go right up to there, and you just work your way around. It's not, you know, this isn't rocket science, but it is just a lot of peeling. Get them all lined up. And the length, the nice thing about this is you can adjust the length however you want. So if you have really long, like blood quill marabou, but you don't want to use the full length, when you're wrapping, there's nothing you can do about it. But when you peel it off like this, you can do whatever length you want. You could trim it off really short if that's what you want to do. I'm not really too worried about length because there is a lot of marabou on here. Wet it down so it doesn't spin too much. My thread is frayed, I don't know why. And if you have any gaps or anything, they'll be covered. If you, like there was a gap there and I just kind of fluffed the feathers out, and that will kind of make them a little more, it'll fill in those gaps. Because the marabou is super puffy, you don't really have to worry. Like with a dubbing brush or something, you don't want lots of gaps in when you're putting it on there. But with this, you just go around, and I've periodically been putting that black in. Maybe I'll do one more. I would kind of rather have more white and light olive than the dark. It depends. Sometimes you catch a bass and it's pale, it's almost all white. And then sometimes you catch them and they're just beautiful black and dark. That's why I'm afraid. But that's the intention of this color pattern. Make sure you've got hair clips because this gets in your way. So I just kind of work my way around, and I'll do a top one. I've got just, these are a little bit longer, but again, I'm just getting thicker and thicker, so I'm going to strip off a lot of this because this is only one color, so that white and light olive is actually twice as thick, so I got to make sure I'm putting in more of this dark. I might actually take this out, and I can just work my way around there. But this marabou, it'll build up fast, so you got to be careful. That's why I had that 140 there, because it'll build up faster than you think. This marabou will. So that's really what you got to be careful with. You're going to build up a lot of big thread bumps. So the collar of this, I'm going to have to actually be kind of careful with. Because I don't want to necessarily have some giant red collar It's okay, but it is going to be big, and that's alright. Grab out just a bunch of this olive. Just work it together in my hands and get it just like this, and this is just a blob. So you trim that and then do your best to get all this back. Get that hair clip down. Because you don't want to just wrap over all that stuff that you're working so hard to get down. Them trimmed and even. Make sure it gets down there. And I'll just do maybe one more of this olive. So I'm going to put just a little bit more of that white and light olive. Then I'm going to do a little black line. Get these lined up. You basically just strip these bare, you know. Just a little bit more. You can kind of go crazy up by the head and get it as thick as you want. This is short too. I want to make sure that I'm pushing all of this marabou down, because when I build that collar up, it's going to be a lot less work if it's somewhat even. So then I'm just going to get right about there, and I'll get that black down, and I should be good. I just don't want this to work back too far. So I'm going to do a pretty long black here, but again, it's pretty thin. I'm only stripping off just a little bit of black, because the black I don't want to be a highlight of this bait. I want it just enough where it shows. Loose wrap, get that right on the side, and I can come over here and do the same thing. What I do with this black to make sure I'm doing it even, you can see how much I stripped here. I'm going to strip the same amount there, so I know I'm putting the same amount of black on both sides. That's just a crazy detailed thing that you really don't have to worry about, but that's my method to try and get it even. So I'm going to build up this collar. We'll see how it looks. Alright, here it is. A little push down because of all the... I'll get it wet in a little bit and see. But again, I soaked these feathers trying to get them to not bleed, because I want the bottom to be light and I want the top to stay that dark olive, and I don't want that black bleeding in to any of it. So the green, these green feathers don't really match very well, but you can't have every color of every feather of everything ever. Maybe you can, maybe you do. But little bass pattern, again, I think when it's wet, when it pulls back like this, you can kind of see that line right there. That's what I'm hoping. A little bit darker on the top, a little bit lighter on the bottom, but I want that difference right in the center as much as I can get it. I think I might go back to deer hair after this. Junior's Fishing Company, juniorsfishing.com. Like and subscribe if you made it this far. Drop a comment. Anything you'd want to see. I'll see you on the next one.